Hello everyone, and thank you for joining XROM Podcast. I'm your host Eddie Avil, and XROM Podcast was designed with a singular vision, and that is to shape, celebrate and showcase India's AR/VR MR growth story, and to help you understand about this transformational technology which holds potential to change the way we live, work and play. Today I have with me Manisha Phadke, Director School of Design at NMIMS. It was a lovely conversation and I hope you enjoy it too. So thank you for joining the XROM podcast, Manisha. I really appreciate it. So can you share a little detail about your professional background and what made you take up the post of Director School of Design at NMIMS?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and I think you and your team is doing a great job by putting all these disjointed pieces of the new emergent technology together. So about me, so I am an alumnus of IDC IIT Bombay, and have a long spanning career of about 25 plus years. When beginning from graphic design to information design, moving to what we used to call at that time was graphic user interfaces, to experience design. My special interest is actually working in the domain of experience design with new emergent technologies, because that's what really excites me, and it's worth researching about and practicing. Definitely. About the School of Design, I think over this long journey, what I noticed is the profiles that we had in the industry and the students that came in over time did not align. So most of the times we had to orient them. There was a certain gestation period before the student was productive on the job. And when this invite came to me to start a school at NMIMS University, I felt that it was a great opportunity for me to start this pathway. So to start a school that is future ready, and especially in the design domain, and that's why I accepted the challenge, and now we are 2 years old.
Lovely. Yeah, so I guess when you said future ready, I guess students need to be future ready because the technology is growing exponentially, and I think all of the industries are getting impacted, especially I think education. I mean, that's the future, right? They are the ones who are going to change the future, and they need to be future ready. They need to know what the future holds, because largely your education system has been traditional, so that definitely needs to change. And another thing is, so far, I mean, the students, it's either the field that they jump up taking is mostly commerce or science, So how would you define design, and how would you convince a traditional parent who wants the kids to be like a doctor or an engineer?
Yeah, but you'll be surprised to know, Eddie, that design is a fast moving profession, I must say, to use this word. But parents and students are actually quite inquisitive and walking this path of being a designer. Now the challenge here is not to convince the parent about or the student to enter design. The challenge that I see in the last 2 or 3 years that I've been here is to educate the parent that the design is also transforming to a different arena. So what we all know is classical design, which is we have product design, visual design, animation, film. But the fact that design is now a verb, which is to design for a certain effect, and the media or the end could be anything, and the fact that it is going to be largely problem solving, and it could be touch and feel products, and it could be intangible seamless experience. Now this aspect, which is called computation design, which is where we have moved, is something the parents don't know about. So when we say we have a undergraduate program, in humanizing technology, they think it's engineering, but we are prima facie design school, and we work with design only.
Right.
So that's where the challenge is.
Lovely. So I mean, but do you see the parents being in hindrance? Because normally, I guess, I mean, everything, we largely a traditional country, right? I mean, and we want our kids to be either engineer or doctor, have a secure career. I mean, at the age of 21, get married. Everything is like, these blocks that we've kind of like created. So how easy has it been convincing these parents, because it largely starts from there, right? Because no matter what, I mean, your parent is spending some certain kind of money because they have an expectation. They want you to be a well-achieved person. So you see, like, the commerce and science is the field where there's like you're gonna have these like really high-end careers. So is that been a problem?
A research survey for economic diversity, especially with reference to India, has put forth a new Indian category. Now, who's this new Indian? It's people who have relatives abroad, who travel abroad, who are on the higher middle class, whose culture is not very deeply rooted in India. It is a mix in Western and India, and the aspirations also are very different. So each one of these students or the parents wants to rise up in a certain field that they choose. So this is bringing us to a situation where parents are looking to look at diverse fields and innovative fields in education where the student has his interest in.
Exactly.
Not where it's a well-trodden path to success, like you mentioned. So the parents also are open to say that, okay, we didn't get the chance, but we are willing to give our students the chance. So I don't see a hindrance there at all.
Right.
Where the cost of education is concerned, of course, the parents are concerned about where these students will be placed and would they make a living, which is in some way a rationale to the cost that they have spent, and that's some answers that we have to give. But looking at where design is getting deep rooted, especially with India as being the forerunner in education. So our government has done so many things and so many initiatives, right from Digital India to Atal Incubation Centers, to Atal Tinkering Centers, Make in India, which is actually given opportunities for design in emergent technology. So where placements are concerned, where job opportunities are concerned, or exciting work for these students is concerned, is available. And many companies and large companies, multinational companies, are staying back in India to do this.
Right.
And so the opportunities are there. Now the parents' interest is there. We need to bring an education that in between that aligns these two together. And that's what
that's where you come in, right? So recently, I mean, we had come over there. I spoke at your college, and the students, they're fantastic.
Thank you so much.
They're lovely students, and so tell me, what's the student strength at this point of time, and could you share more light on the curriculum that you're building over there?
Sure. So I do have parents telling me that I should increase the strength, but we have kept the strength at 25. Why? Because we are a transdisciplinary program where nurturing a student is as important as teaching them new knowledge. So when we are looking at a student, especially at an undergrad level, we are looking at a 17-year-old, which has come from a traditional system of education wherein design or thinking out of the box, being a propagator, is not really advocated. So to change a character of a student from there to what design needs and actually requires is the journey that our student is transversing, and also our curriculum facilitates that, which means the one-on-one mentoring sessions, one-on-one conversations with the faculty is very important, and hence we keep it to 25. About our curriculum, we are a transdisciplinary program in humanizing technology. So design has always been multidisciplinary. I mean, you would know that because you've been there. We always look at a 360-degree view of things before we salute a problem or come with a concept. From there, we have now moved to something called as transdisciplinary, which means we take diverse aspects. So it could be a business angle, it's a technology angle, it's a cognitive science angle, and of course, what the user, and develop a new knowledge or a new concept or a new product from it. So that's what our curriculum really focuses on. It's transdisciplinary. The second thing is, which I mentioned earlier, we look at holistic transformation of a student to facilitate design. So that's another integral part of our school. We are also having labs. We work in the area of building and creating.
Okay.
And so we have a tinkering lab that focuses on rapid prototyping. We have the XR lab, which has equipments to actually deep stick into the handsets and the VR gear. We have a usability lab where students work on user centricity and figure out whether their solutions are really apt. And of course, we have the workshop that every design school has. So what we are focusing on is a student that is going to work, get his hands dirty, build a product, test it, and know where it went right or wrong. So the execution of the design is as important as the conceptualization of the design, which is transdisciplinary. So that's something also that we work on. We are also getting our students a taste of what we call as creative entrepreneurship. So where I come from is an engineer sets up a startup, a management school student sets up a startup, but a design student always has new ideas. And he's always propagating something which is maybe 5 years ahead of time. But there are very few that we can name who have successful startups. So how do we figure? So each one of us has studios, which are creative studios, and we offer services. But there is a difference between a startup and a studio for services.
Right.
And so what we do is we have a creative entrepreneurship module where we train the student to take their idea from a pitch, from an idea to a pitch for a venture capitalist. So how do you get the students not being only job seekers, but job creators as well? So that's one thing we do. Another integral part of our curriculum is the research, the ability to do scientific research. As a designer, we all do empathy research and be in the user's shoes, follow him for a day. But what we are also training our student is how do you take assistance from a new knowledge that is out there in the world and strengthen to do a data-driven design, but also create papers, write an article, write a white paper, write a research paper on what you have propagated. Could be just a new knowledge creation for somebody else to take up. So that's a research pathway that we intensely start from the foundation year to the 4th year, and it graduates. A difference in our program is also that we have a 2-year foundation instead of a 1-year foundation in most design schools, because we train our students in multi skills. So a student moves from sketching to 3D design, through design from motion, to sensorial design. So that the journey from 2D to 5D is what he or she makes from skilling to visualization. So the 2-year foundation program takes care of the multi-skilling, also takes care of design allied subjects that we have brought to make it transdisciplinary, which is business, technology, all the emerging technologies. So our young students actually learn to code and play with technology with Arduinos and Raspberry Pis. We also train them to look at sciences, so cognitive science, behavioral science, sociology, the cultural aspect of whatever they are doing. So what we are trying to achieve is to take a 360-degree view of transdisciplinary approach to design in context. So it could be year 1 today, it could be 5 years later. The methodology will remain the same till we again disrupt ourselves to some more emergent technologies. So that, in a nutshell, is what we offer as undergraduate program in Humanizing Technology.
Wow, there's quite a lot. Yeah, so this is just not design. You're building an entrepreneur. So because there's so much that you're doing, it's right. You mentioned cognitive science and design. You mentioned empathy research. You mentioned data-driven science. And I think what I liked was the holistic transformation to facilitate design. I think that's what is needed at this point in time, because students are being stressed out. There are are killing themselves because they pushed so much,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So we need something which is holistic. I think is definitely what holistic transformation is definitely needed. So can you shine more light on the XR lab that you spoke about?
Yeah, so the XR lab is our step in the pathway of the module that we offer, which is designed for immersive experiences.
Right.
So we start with definitely the cardboard headgear to the HTC Vive. We have a room scale lab where we immerse our students in actually feeling what immersion is all about and what is VR, what could be AR, and what is mixed reality. So instead of actually learning the tech and then moving to design, we actually immerse the student in the lab and let him figure out serendipitously what are the challenges that a designer can opportune when he's working in immersive. So the lab is more not for only execution of their designs, but it's for pre-learning to even begin the module. So that's our XR lab.
Nice. So AR, VR, MR is being called the future of education, future of healthcare and all of these. And though it's in a very nascent stage, but world over is being adopted in a big way. The institutes are adopting it. So what are you doing, I mean, with immersive education or teaching experiences?
So yes, given India as a space, I think immersive education will actually, we'll be able to take education to the masses,
right,
provided we bring down the cost of the hardware. So I think a lot of work should be done in that arena. Now, to do work in that arena requires a professional, and you require, yes, a technology professional or a software professional, but you also require somebody who design that solution and design an experience. And that's where we are moving. So you could call us early adopters in the field of design for immersive experiences, and we teach them through certain principles and elements and a design method for working in the immersive space. So that's something we are putting out professionals who would do this job of taking education through immersive media to the masses.
Right.
And actually, in a way, if I can bring back, so if you remember, in villages we had something called as a bioscope. Yeah. So if you look at the bioscope, it actually told stories of spaces that you couldn't be. Okay. And I think that's the stem of VR.
Right.
And now we have come to, the HTC Vives and, room scale and collaborative platforms in VR, but that's where the story started.
Right.
And that's the story we can still continue, given that this technology hopefully is not going to be emerging and it's going to be a technology that is widely used.
Yeah. I'm sure it's going to be soon, because I mean, if you see it globally, almost all the big players have been heavily vested in it, and the price points of the products are coming down. So tell me, how do you see AR VR impacting design? Largely, the reason I say this is because so far we've been limited with or 2D platforms, right? Everything that we see and experience is in a 2D platform, right? From your books to your TVs to your theaters to your phones and everything. It restricts us to 2D medium. With AR, VR, MR, it's gonna take us into the 3D medium, where we will be interacting with these content, where possibly as a designer you'll be able to go around, see the design. So how do you see AR, VR disrupting design?
It will disrupt the way we think about space, right? So designers have worked with space, and designers have been architects, space designers, and experienced designers in full scale. But what is challenging is how would a user react with a headset, and when he or she is transported into a new world, the transition of real to unreal is a challenge we need to solve. How do you do that seamlessly? The user, right from the bioscope that I mentioned, is looking and wanting things that he or she doesn't experience around, right? So even if it's looking at a model of a car, he or she is not going to the showroom, so he wants to have a device for it. So the user is wanting to see something he or she doesn't see, but yet doesn't want to interact in an unrealistic way. So he still wants to tap, he still wants to talk. He doesn't want to use those awkward handheld devices and click and pick up a cup very unnaturally. So that's the second challenge that I see us designers need to solve. How are we going to make it seamless? Given that there are few, unless holographic, collaborative way of function in VR is going to be widespread, we're still dealing with devices that were made for games.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Because at this point in time, the VR devices are clunky. Like you rightfully mentioned, you have these handheld controllers, which takes away the freedom of when you're really touching and feeling stuff. But yes, I mean globally, if you see even Facebook right now is looking at introducing hand tracking, so you will not need a controller with their tracking cameras. They'll be able to track your hands, and then you'll be interacting with the world exactly how you do it right now. Though we actually a couple of years from, maybe 5 years from actually the headsets to become form factor of coming as like your normal glasses, and maybe where you'll be able to touch, feel with the haptic feedback, the real world. So those are the things which, yes, there's a problem. Those are genuine problems, and I'm sure people are working on it to solve those problems. Now tell me, I mean, education, which has largely been a very traditional in nature, do you see these online education disrupting the traditional education platform? Because even now,
yes and no. So online education has been a runner in education of updating of education mostly, or your skills or knowledge, and it has been going around for some time, and it's here to stay. If it's going to replace the traditional university approach of education is the question that we may want to debate on. So I don't think so, because it's still not looked as a curriculum that is edited and it actually curated for an undergraduate degree or a postgraduate degree. So you do have diplomas happening in postgraduate. You do have certifications happening, and that will really happen. But can we get a classroom view of things and see the transformation of the student? That is a path that we have to cross. So educators are now coming into it, and they are now looking at it as a opportunity to train students or educate students at a larger scale. So not really only MOOCs or not Coursera, but in a larger state. So I think that would happen. And interestingly, what is happening with the XR is there are now collaborative platforms that are happening. So you wear the headset and you can be anywhere and actually live in a common space.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so that's something personally is very, very exciting. Right. So you could be anywhere in the world and be a professor. Right. You could have 10 students, and you could have students from anywhere. And you could have facilitators from everywhere, and we are in an unseen space. And so there are platforms that are facilitating that even as we speak today. Right. So if that actually comes in the forerun, I think what the question you asked me will see the light of the day. So then we can have actual virtual classrooms that do almost the same or have the same learning outcomes that we at the university level ensure the student get. So we always have objectives and learning outcomes happening at every module, every unit, and then at a graduate level. So I think we'll be able to map those outcomes because we are actually interacting with the student, whether it's real or unreal space. So I think I'm really looking forward to that particular platform being democratized.
So yes, I mean, democratization of education, I think that's what, democratization of everything, I guess that's what the world needs at this point in time, right? I mean, technology is growing exponentially. With blockchain coming in, the government or the governance could get democratize or decentralize it. Yeah, so with AI, there could be personal teaching. The technology at this point in time is in such a nascent stage, and you rightfully said there are already platforms right now where you could be anywhere around the world, but be in a classroom with a teacher who's teaching you. So it does hold promise to, you know. So I recently I met this director of a media and education institute, and he was mentioning that because of the slowdown of the economy, it's affecting the job market and placement is becoming a problem. So do you see that as a problem?
No, I don't see that as a problem at all. Well, I'm talking only from the purview of a design student. But the rationale is that yes, there is technology that is taking away some jobs, but it's also creating some other jobs, right? So when you're talking about artificial intelligence or machine learning, people are fearing that some jobs will go away. Yes. So when industrialization happened, also some jobs went away, but then they got reskilled to some other jobs, and that transition is what we are grappling with right now. So what jobs are going to go away, which jobs are going to create, and which cerebral jobs are going to be retained. So I think that journey in the education sector, we need to keep a focus on. So what are we bringing to the market, and what's the industry or what's the job situation there? So I don't really see that as a slowdown. Definitely, I see that as an opportunity for educators to build in new programs which actually work in the areas that are going to come. Because yes, computers are becoming intelligent, but somebody is teaching them to be intelligent, right? So we are teaching them to map our feeds and, track us down, to give us the suggestions, and predictive technology has come, suggestive technology has come, automation has come. But with that, seemingly we have freed our time. So what are we going to do? So the routine tasks have got done by the computer, and we still have time to think of the cerebral tasks and the intellectual way of approaching a problem. And I think that will never go away, because somebody has to teach them. So whilst I'm here propagating that emerging technology is here to stay and we cannot run away from them, let's work for it. Yes, we also have to look at the humans that are working with them. So the Generation Z that are my students come with differences than the millennials. So their ability to work with themselves, their hesitation to go and ask for help when they're stuck, their ability to be only within themselves with the devices is not what design needs. So design needs collaborative working. And how do we then bring and use this technology to be able to facilitate those finer tunes that we need from Generation Z to be profile ready? I think that's the journey. If we make it right, I don't think there is any slump in job opportunities. That's how I see it, really.
Definitely, I think technology has a brighter side, and it's got this downside also, because I have a 4.5-year-old kid, and he's constantly glued onto his tablet.
Yes.
And at this point in time, if you see largely, students, kids would prefer sitting on the tablet or on a social media platform rather than going out and meeting friends or playing and stuff like that. Yes, so definitely technology has got this plus points where it's making life easier for us, and all these other technologies, like you mentioned, AI and machine learning, it's going to take away jobs also. So it's got the downside too. So now tell me, the Indian education system, largely at this point in time, it's because of its rote learning, it's a doldrum. It's not in nice shape, right? And that needs to change now, because the coming future, we are the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution. Like you rightfully mentioned, you're breeding future-ready students.
Yes.
So what needs to be done to bring about a change in the education system?
I don't know where to start on that one, but I think we're taking some baby steps there. So we have introduced design thinking, or the way a designer thinks, into the curriculum. So some of the programs at the school level do have this inbuilt. We are also propagating building, like create something. So play with technology, play with Raspberry Pis, play with Arduinos, build something. It could be very simple, but build something. So I think we have taken baby steps there. But what's important from my point of view is our whole rationale or our thought process of why we educate ourselves. So India, because of its population, educates itself to come up to the top. So we are in the competitive spirits all the time.
Right.
So I don't know whether we take that time to think whether I have evolved in education, but I definitely spend a lot of time thinking I'm better than you.
Yes.
Or vice versa. So I think we have to change both the modes of working, and that's only when the rote learning will go away. Because today, the only person who's successful is how much he can crunch and how much can he or she replicate. But there are these very young, brilliant minds who think differently and who want to who are pioneers, where they don't stay in this system and they wither and they fall off. The bud is nipped, and that's what probably we need to work on. And I think the postgraduate programs should have a different way of eligibility criteria for them, for their students to know. So it's not only about how much marks you got, what have you done otherwise.
Right.
The job the interviewers or the employers should also ask these questions, where it's not about what you got, it's about what you have done and what do you want to do. I think if we change how we are looking at things in a different way, now that India is an emerging economy as well, and India has fast adopted that we are in the experience economy. I think we can walk that path, and we as creators of knowledge and the parents who are the facilitators of that can think differently. So when my parents come for the first parent-teacher conference, when we have that at the mid-semester of the first term, we actually urge the parents that we have given you a skill attribute map. Please look at what the student is and not what the absolute grade is. Because it doesn't matter. In the bigger picture, especially in design, it doesn't matter. It's about how the student has transformed, figured out where he lacks, built the skill or built new knowledge, practiced it and got better at it. And we can have 25 students who are brilliant. We don't need to have number them from 1 to 25 in whichever order you want to do. I think that's the approach we are doing in a very small way. And I must say this, that my last parent-teacher conferences last week, I had a spontaneous parent of my first batch come and talk about this and said, how much that student has transformed from year 1 to year 3 by just the parent not focusing on comparative grading, but just the person. And I think, if you could change that, just few parents, I think we'll be able to change how education is seen.
Brilliant. So I guess, that's needed so desperately, because parents are continuously running to see these kids or their kids perform with higher grades, and they stress the students out. When you do that, let them be. I think we'll have an education system which is holistic, and the students will end up doing some brilliant stuff.
Yes, I look forward to that.
Yeah. So on that note, it was a pleasure talking to you. And would you want to share any last note on or what your vision is for School of Design?
Well, the School of Design vision is still creating these it's to be a hub for these new programs which are future ready, path breaking in emergent technologies from a design point of view. So if you look at any emergent technologies, you are working in XR and it's mostly technologist led, and the technologists are getting user centricity and bringing that up. But the nuances of what we can bring, the shell or the layer that we can bring to the technology, where the technology is hidden, and the user just feels seamless about it. I mean, he's using the product as if it was seamless and there is no technology or a mechanics behind it. I think that part is what I'm really envisioning School of Design at NMIMS University to do, and we are moving in that direction. We are also urging the industry to look at these profiles differently and not look at them as classical design profiles that are coming up. And I'm sure the synergy will bring somewhere. The time has come that the technologists, the scientists, and the designers and the business people have to come together to create a transdisciplinary solution for the industry as well. So I think that's the vision. So we would work in the education space for that. We would work with the industry for that. We would work with expertise for that to propagate that. Let's get to an education that is relevant for tomorrow, where the student feels motivated and feels confident that hey, I can come out in the world and sustain it myself there, and not feel I don't know this. So I think that's my vision for the School of Design, and hope we go strength to strength.
Lovely. So best of luck for that, and thank you for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it.